Hey, what's up, spooky fam? Today is day 4 of Cult Horror Movie Review Week, and we are talking about a classic horror story from 2021. This one kind of appeared out of nowhere, got a lot of buzz. This is an Italian language horror film, and Alex and I started this one night really late as we were going to bed, and I was like falling asleep, and I had to pause it because this is one that I felt like I needed to watch and pay attention to, and I really ended up enjoying it.
Tu sei la più preziosa qui.
So basically, this is about a group of people using a rideshare app to carpool to different places for different reasons. And after an accident, we are taken on a journey of discovery and lots and lots and lots of torture and weird noises, but we'll get into that. So I had one issue with this movie, and when we first started watching it, I googled, is a classic horror story scary? And right away this article came up that was from a website called leisurebite.com, and I'm just gonna say that because I have a problem with you. They published an article that said there is nothing creepy or remotely terrifying about a classic horror story, but I beg to differ because there was a lot going on in that one that could easily make someone feel very uncomfortable very fast. Let's get into the actual plot of the movie really quick. I'm gonna try and fly through this because I took a lot of notes and I don't want to bombard you with information here, so I'm gonna try and keep it simple. But firstly, I'm not sure how to pronounce the lead actress's name because it is an Italian language film, so I'm just gonna call her Elisa. She is traveling through a carpool rideshare app, like I mentioned, back to her parents' house because she is deciding if she wants to have a schmorption or not. Gets into an RV which is driven by a travel blogger named Fabrizio, who is kind of an asshole. They are also accompanied by a doctor and a very outgoing couple, and right here, this whole trip, this whole carpool rideshare, the people, the setup, this whole movie just gives Midsommar vibes, so there's that. So Elisa has morning sickness and they pull over, and once they all get back on the road, Mark, who is the man in the couple that I mentioned, starts drinking and driving and causes an accident. And this from now on is when, oh, there's nothing more remotely creepy or terrifying. This is where I beg to differ because this is where shit gets real. So they crash into a tree, and in the morning we see Mark with a broken leg, but they're no longer on the road. They're in a clearing surrounded by forest. They find a cabin which closely resembles this shape, but a little bit more edgy, and I actually really like the design of that. The whole cinematography of this movie, the design, the props, everything in this movie is very well done. But anyways, they find a cabin, they don't enter, but Fabrizio and the doctor find 3 deformed scarecrows crucified on an altar wearing pig heads, and they leave in fear. Elisa, however, enters the cabin and discovers a ritualistic mural. If I walked in anywhere and saw anything spooky on the walls, I'm out. Anyways, the mural shows 3 deities, and this is something that I'm going to get into later on at the end of the video, so stay tuned if you want a little history behind this. The mural shows 3 deities, and I'm very bad at pronouncing things. So Ostro, Mastostro, and Cargnostro. Ashley is horrible at saying words. But anyways, they symbolize the leaders that a group worships in exchange for abundance and riches through human sacrifice. So we're definitely nothing remotely terrifying about it. So they spend the night inside the RV until screams are heard from a cabin, and when they finally enter, they see a child who is kind of entombed in a nest, and her tongue is mutilated. And Mark stayed behind, which was his fault because he gets taken by the three masked figures. He's brought into the cabin and the group is forced to watch him be tortured and have his eyes gouged out, which is important. He also has his feet shattered and broken, and this man's already has a broken foot, so I mean, sorry. When they try to escape, they find a graveyard of cars which symbolize people who have already tried to escape. So they realize they're not the first ones who have been here and possibly have been through this. So Ashley is gonna be bad at pronouncing names again, so we're just gonna guess because like I am very white and I don't say things, I say things phonetically and not with the beautiful Italian accents as they do in the movie. So the small girl that I mentioned, her name is Chihara. It is revealed that she is the only living survivor of her family. You know, one of the families that might have died in the car graveyard thing. But time passes and the group they've fallen asleep in the cabin. So Elisa wakes up to see the doctor, Mark's girlfriend, and Chihara. They're up on an altar. The three masked figures I mentioned earlier begin their ritual, and Sophia, the girlfriend, has her eyeballs gouged out. Remember when I said, oh, nothing remotely terrifying about this movie? Anyways, the doctor has his ears mangled. Their eyes, ears, and tongues are mangled, and that represents kind of what the masks of the three masked figures look like. So those are what I deemed to be the cult leaders, and that's why we're talking about this movie for Cult Horror Movie Week. So their body parts, their ears, their eyes, they're taken and put in a giant scarecrow. Chihara is in that scarecrow, and the remaining two, they've already been, you know, cut up. They have their throats cut and they are dead. But Elisa realizes that when they were sleeping, before they went to sleep, Fabrizio had given them all sleeping pills without them knowing, and that's when they were taken. The two of them were taken to be put up and killed. She discovers that Fabrizio is wearing an earpiece, which is suspicious because this, like I mentioned in the beginning in my intro to Cult Horror Movie Week, this is a fabricated cult. I forget at what point in this movie it happens, but I feel like it's around this time. I think it was just before all of this happened, where there's like 50 people standing out in like a field just going, and it's disgusting. I think Alex and we just laughed so hard. I'm gonna insert a clip because I feel like you guys need to feel gross too. It is just a weird sound that is so left field. Anyways, Fabrizio is pissed that she discovered she's on to him, and he has a couple of the cult members drag her outside. And we see her wake up in the morning strapped to a wheelchair with her hands nailed to the arms of the wheelchair, and she is sat at the head of a table, and this is in the midst of one of the cult's meals. Very Midsommar-esque. After that, she is taken to a control room where she sees a bunch of CCTV footage and TV set up, and she realizes that they've all been watched and this has all been a setup. Fabrizio reveals that he is trying to make a snuff film, a classic horror story, if you will. Elisa frees herself and she wanders through production and discovers that Chiara is not only alive, but she is Fabrizio's sister and she has been in on this the whole time. Elisa catches them and discovers that they have been working with the mayor, who is working with the Mafia, but they are making the next kind of moves on what they're going to do with her because they have to finish their snuff film. If you guys haven't caught on, the Mafia is buying these horrible movies and they're funding this, and Fabrizio is fabricating this through his rideshare app, and I don't know, gave me Pele vibes. So Chiara comes back, Elisa kills both her and Fabrizio, but she recorded everything that she did before she left. She exits through a forest that's labeled a fake military zone, and as she wanders she ends up at a beach, and as she's wandering through the beach she's being recorded by people who are watching her, shocked by the way that she looks, and she wanders right out to sea, and that's the last we see of Elisa. I kind of like that ambiguous ending, but it's not the end because there's a post-credit scene. We see a user on the Snuff film website, app, whatever it was, in a chat about Fabrizio's Snuff film with the ending of him being murdered with his little sister along with him. It ends, the movie ends on the movie getting a bad rating, which I think is very funny. So this one, I don't know, this one, I love Midsommar, obviously. So this one kind of struck a chord with me from the way that it was shot, like the shots of the deer, the head that was on the wall, and just the lighting. Everything was so awesome about this movie. And it I don't know, it makes me really excited about foreign horror because you really, I don't know why they wrote that this movie does have scenes that are very upsetting. If you don't like body horror, if you don't like murder, if you don't like things like that, like if you don't like seeing things happen like that, and so I give this movie probably a 4 out of 5. I think it was very well done, and I think the twist, I didn't see it coming the first time I watched it, so that was really cool. But let's get into the little urban legend part of the story. So the 3 names that I could not pronounce earlier, Osso, Amadestrasso, and Cognasso, you know, Ashley cannot do words. Anyways, they are based on an urban legend that is still popular in Italy about 3 brothers who murdered their sister's rapist and were banished off of the island that they lived on. They landed on the coast of the Sicilian Islands, where they ended up making their own place, their own rules, their own society, their own everything. They also founded 3 major criminal organizations, most notably the Casa Nostra, which is the Mafia. So that's kind of where that whole story of the masked figures, the Mafia running everything, like that's where that all comes from. And very quickly before I end this video, we're gonna butcher these names one more time. Osso means bone, and Mastrasso means master bone, and the last name that I'm not even gonna try to pronounce right now means heel bone. So they all have a related meaning, and I think that's very cool. So I just wanted to end that off on a little history. My throat is starting, I feel gross, so I'm gonna exit now. I will see you tomorrow, hopefully. If not, I might stretch my last video out to Saturday because it's going to be a big one. We are talking about Eyes Wide Shut, and I think it is appropriate to end Cult Horror Movie Week on. So I will see you either tomorrow or Saturday for the next video. Sayonara, Spooky fam.